What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the May 30th, 2022 edition, the Memorial Day edition, of Raw Talk from last night. This, quite honestly, might be the best edition of Raw Talk I have seen under the current format. I did not watch it live last night, one of the few times I did not watch Raw Talk as it aired right after Raw on Peacock. And I'm disappointed I didn't, because I saw the fallout on Twitter with Kevin Patrick and Becky Lynch and Kevin Owens, in a great way. I say fallout as if like there was an issue. The fucking interaction between those three on this show was amazing. The current format I have not been a fan of. I've talked about it before. The previous, I know they don't really have much of an option, and they went in a different direction with the show when they went back on the road last summer. The previous format of Raw Talk and Talking Smack, when they interviewed talent right after Raw, right after SmackDown, in the arena, that was back during the Thunderdome era. But they would interview talent, with Charlotte Caruso, who I wasn't the biggest fan of, but, she was there hosting things, Kayla Braxton over on Talking Smack, and we would get, genuine in-depth interviews with the talent after the shows. They can't do it in the arena anymore because they're on the road again. Before, they would just, drive home and shit, and it wouldn't really be that big of a deal, and they could do the show inside the arena, wouldn't have to take shit down. Now they have Matt Camp, Jackie Redmond, and everyone else in the studio in Stamford, I believe, kind of recording their analysis on the show, which is largely pointless. These shows really don't do much to offer anything of a note, aside from just recapping what we just saw on Raw or what we saw on SmackDown the day before. That being said, the interviews that we got on this show and the banter between Kevin Owens, Kevin Patrick, and Becky Lynch was unless I'm missing something, by far my favorite thing on anything we've seen from Raw Talk in the last year. It was fantastic. So let's get right into it. They recap the closing segment to start off Raw Talk, the contract signing with Omos and Bobby Lashley, and Omos, Cedric Alexander getting there as well. Kind of the physical brawl that we saw between the four men to close out the show and hype up the handicap match for Sunday's Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, before they then run down the biggest headlines from the show, that being Matt Camp and Jackie Redmond, before recapping the six-man tag team match that saw Elias, or rather Ezekiel, I apologize, and the Mysterios taking out the trio of Kevin Owens and Alpha Academy. So backstage, we hear from Kevin Owens and Kevin Patrick. Kevin Owens, I don't think we've heard too much from here on Raw Talk really at all in the last year, but this was a star-studded edition between Becky and KO being on the show. We don't really hear from them often here on the show, but we got elongated interviews with them on this episode. So Kevin Owens, after Kevin brings up, Ezekiel, he keeps winning matches and building momentum. What are your thoughts on that? Kevin Owens, first of all, has him sit down right next to him on the ground in the fucking back hallway of this arena. And Kevin Owens says, "Do you think you're cute?" And he says this 50 times. He's like, "I know you're handsome. You got those nice blue eyes, but do you think you're cute here?" And I can't do the Kevin Owens accent, but he's like, "Do you think you're cute calling him the same person?" It's not the same person. It's not. And the name of the pay-per-view is Hell in the Cell. I'm going to be the hell out of Ezekiel at the pay-per-view and blah, blah, blah. He deserves the beating he's going to get on Sunday and all this other sort of stuff. He kind of recaps the rivalry with Ezekiel, saying that WrestleMania was the biggest night of his career. Not Ezekiel, but Kevin Owens, facing Stone Cold Steve Austin in the main event of WrestleMania. He had a bad back that night. Stone Cold took advantage of that, won the match, but, it was a highlight of his career nonetheless. And then, 2 nights later on Raw, Ezekiel tries to steal his thunder, and he believes it's the same person. In WWE canon, we still don't know if it's going to end up being the same person or not. That would be great if they went in that direction. But anyway, Kevin brings up, they can't be the same person. He passed the lie detector test. He passed the lie detector test a few weeks ago on Raw. And Kevin Owens says, "I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been thinking long and hard about this since that happened last month." And here's the thing. His theory is that he was born Ezekiel. He had a brother named Elias who died. When he came to WWE, he paid tribute to his brother Elias by calling himself Elias. For whatever reason, he went away last year, came back as himself Ezekiel, thus proving that he is indeed Ezekiel, but Elias and Ezekiel are indeed the same person. That is a great theory, and I hope they bring that up on Raw or on some sort of these panels on the pre-show or whatever, which no one else really watches, but I don't watch that shit, but maybe they can bring that up on Raw one of these weeks, and unless the feud is over on Sunday, who knows. But I thought that was really funny that he brought that up. And it was fucking great. And they talked about that and all this other shit, and they cut off his time. Because I guess these interviews on Raw Talk and Talking Smack only have so much time backstage, which is fucking dumb. I would rather hear a lot less from Camp, Redmond, and Booker T, and whoever else they have on these shows than I do the actual talent. That really should be the draw of these shows, is hearing from the talent after Raw and SmackDown are over. This was great for as long as it lasted. Him going after Kevin Patrick was great. They ended it abruptly. That was not all. I'll get to more of Kevin Owens later, but that was great, though. So back in the studio, Booker T says that Kevin Owens is currently obsessed with Ezekiel, and beating Ezekiel at Hell in the Cell on Sunday might be the solution. Matt Cam says that Kevin Owens can bounce back from the loss to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. The Rock managed to do it. He turned out just fine. KO can do the same, but he's got to get his bearings about him, and he's got to figure his shit out. Booker T says he's got to snap out of it and get off his damn rocker, because he's currently off his damn rocker is what he meant to say, I guess. Jackie Redmond says that Bobby Lashley kind of transitioning to the handicap match in Hell in the Cell. She says that Bobby Lashley can win that handicap match in Hell in the Cell. Booker thinks that Lashley has kind of fallen in MVP's trap of focusing too much on him and not as much on Omos. He says that Omos can dominate WWE with the right guidance and direction from MVP. Matt Cam says he kind of reiterates what Booker says and says that Bobby's got to focus on Omos going into this match on Sunday. Booker kind of also adds that MVP was the man behind the magic. He made all that magic happen when he was WWE champion and everything else. And it's going to be a very interesting scenario on Sunday. They then recap Bianca Belair versus Asuka, a very good match that Bianca won clean. Good stuff. Backstage, Becky Lynch talks about laying out both women, I think following the matchup, getting that momentum, telling Sarah Schreiber she has the advantage going into Sunday's triple threat match, which is when Kevin Owens interrupts. Kevin Owens interrupts and says, listen, they cut off my time earlier. I just came here to say that they are indeed the same person. This was fucking great. And Becky and Kevin play off each other so exceptionally well. If you saw their interaction at the media scrum over Mania weekend, I was there, my fucking phone just went off, I apologize. But if you saw their interaction over Mania weekend during the media scrum, I was there for that. I didn't do the interview. I think it was gorilla position. They just went back and forth, and Sammy too. It was fucking great. The chemistry that Becky, Sammy, and KO have together is amazing. They all lost to WrestleMania that weekend, but they really are great at their jobs. They're fantastic. All as heels, they're amazing. I wish we could see more of that on WWE TV. But anyway, they talk about that, and fucking Becky agrees with him. And it's like, yeah, they are obviously the same person. I apologize for Kevin Patrick, she says. You know, the Irish, we're usually raised better. We're usually raised better than that. And Becky believes the theory and all this other stuff and everything else. And it was great. It really was entertaining. I wish the entire episode was devoted to solely Becky Lynch and KO's interaction. Sadly, it was not. But it was very entertaining while it lasted. Back in the studio, Matt Camp makes a great point. To kind of back up KO's theory, he doesn't say that he believes him. Doesn't say that necessarily. But he does say that the last time we saw Elias on WWE TV, there was the name Elias on a tombstone. So I completely forgot about that. I remember like they pretended Elias was dead or something or whatever. Maybe that was Elias the whole time. That wasn't. I mean, but then again, it said Elias through like whenever he was born through 2021. So that wouldn't exactly back up the theory that he died years ago or whatever. Maybe he did die last year. And then I don't know why he would pay tribute to him after he died in storyline. Who knows? But that was a very interesting point to make. Anyway, back to Becky Lynch. Matt Camp says that she is finally focused in, kind of honed in on Bianca and Asuka at the perfect time. Whoever wins this Raw Women's Championship match on Sunday, he says, it's going to be a massive win. You have two of the greatest Raw Women's Champions of all time, in Becky Lynch and Asuka. And Bianca's currently in the midst of her current reign. She's been a good champion as well. So it's going to be a big win regardless of who wins at Hell in the Cell. Jackie also references the fact, and I missed this on Raw, I saw it on Twitter after the fact, that Becky called herself a wizard. Now, that's the whole line right now with Jericho. It's fucking dumb. The wizard shit is stupid. It's dumb whoever says it. It really doesn't matter the company or the talent. It's really stupid when Jericho says it, and it's supposed to be dumb. I just think it's dumb and not funny dumb. It's just fucking stupid. And he's trying to get it over. I don't think it's over, but that's just me. But anyway, so she actually tweeted after the fact that she did not want to say that. She wanted to call herself a magician. That was the line that she preferred. Kind of making it sound like they made her say wizard, so maybe WWE really wanted to stick it to Jericho. Who the fuck knows? Jericho will be back in a year or two anyway, I guarantee it. I mean, they take all these shots at people in the other company. I mean, it goes both ways, but like they took all those shots at Cody and all this other shit, and then Cody's back in the company years later. So it hardly even matters. But anyway, they kind of referenced the wizard thing here for some reason. And I don't know why. Maybe they did make it a point to bring that up because of Chris Jericho. I doubt Jackie Redmond watches anything AEW related, so I'm sure that was just a coincidence. But anyway, they then recap the Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins brawl, which was very good. Great verbal interaction, verbal exchange between those two men on Raw. Matt Camp calls it one of Seth Rollins' most important matches coming up on Sunday, in recent years anyway, in recent times. That if Rollins loses again for the third straight time, he's going to be at a crossroads in his career. For Cody, he will be that much closer to attaining his goal of becoming a world champion of this company. I think it's likely Rollins could win. I honestly think it'd be cool if Cody went 3-0 against Rollins. I think that'd be great. We'll see. I would like to see that happen, but Rollins winning would not kill Cody Rhodes, so we'll see what happens on Sunday. They then recap the Theory versus Ali, Mustafa Ali United States Championship match, where Theory beat Ali up beforehand, managed to win by cheating or whatever. So we're getting a rematch on Sunday. Fair fight this time in Ali's hometown of Chicago for the United States Championship. Theory calls himself one of the best U.S. champions ever, and that Ali is nothing more than a stepping stone backstage when he was interviewed with Kevin Patrick. So really not much to note there, but it was a fun little interview. Booker T says that he loves Theory. He loves Theory, and that he embodies that it's all about checks and championships in WWE. In pro wrestling, it's all about checks and championships. Matt Camp also referenced Scott Hall's old line that it's not friends business, it's show business, or show friends, or whatever the fucking line was, and that it's every man for themselves in WWE. That being said, Matt Camp says that Theory wants the spotlight and is ready. He calls him a ready-to-go U.S. champion come Hell in the Cell. And Booker says that the only advice that he gives to Theory is that he probably should have softened up Ali more going into Sunday and before that match on Monday to really put him away to ensure there was no rematch at the pay-per-view, but alas, that's not the case. They then promoted the Bump's new time slot of 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays now. I've never watched a single episode of the Bump, but I guess they're moving from 10:30 on Wednesdays a.m. to now 1 p.m. So for those who care and watch that shit, I know no one really watches Raw Talk, so I can't really speak, but if you watch the Bump and you're looking forward to that, it's now airing on 1 p.m. on Wednesdays, so that's their new time slot. Great episode of Raw Talk for nothing due to the fact that it had to do with Jackie or Matt Camp or Booker or whatever. Solely great due to the interaction from Becky, Kevin Owens, and Kevin Patrick. And the fallout on Twitter has also been amazing. So check those out when you get a chance. WWE, I think, always puts up the interview portions of these shows on their YouTube channel. So when I say, watch Raw Talk, I kind of mean that. The actual analysis is really nothing worth noting from these shows, but from the WWE heads and whatever. But, the interviews backstage with KO, Becky, and Kevin Patrick, and Sarah Schreiber as well, were very, very good. So check those out when you get a chance. And those are my thoughts on the May 30th, 2022 edition of Raw Talk. I appreciate you guys taking the time to check out my review here. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode of #AskGSM. Until then, guys, have a great one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.